And I said, why me? And the voice said, because you're on television, dummy.
Hello and welcome to the 12th entry of my film journal, where I record my experience watching your favorite movie. I'm Frankie, and today I'm getting mad as hell with Network. When I was watching Sidney Lumet's 1976 satirical black comedy Network, I was struck by how well the dialogue had aged and how relevant it still is, even in today's rapidly changing media environment. The movie starts with Howard Beale, a longtime news anchor at UBS, having a drink with his friend and news division president Max Schumacher. Howard has just learned that he is being let go in 2 weeks because of falling ratings. During his next broadcast, Howard promises to himself on air during Tuesday's program. Executives try to fire him, but Max convinces them to let Howard have a dignified farewell, during which he goes on a rant about how life is bullshit. Howard's behavior, of course, causes ratings to rise significantly, and the programming chief, Diana Christensen, tries to convince Max to let her develop Howard's shtick further. Max is against the idea, but Diana and him start having an affair. Ultimately, Howard captures his audience's attention by asking them to shout, "I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore," from their windows. He gets his own highly rated television program, coining him the mad prophet of the airways. And there's just something about this specific dynamic that Howard creates with his audience that really reminds me of today's media landscape.
I want you to get mad. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad.
We just have not changed at all as a society, I feel like.
What I love is that Howard Beale does absolutely nothing about it. He has an audience out there which shouts along with the announcer, "I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore." And that becomes as stupid and duplicitous as anything else. And Howard is yelling at them, "You're not serial, you're not fake, we're the ones who are fake." And they sit there, and he goes into a fit and falls on the ground, and they cheer. And when he gets shot, they cheer. The audience doesn't change. Howard doesn't change.
I must admit, I'm not a journalist or anyone with specific knowledge of this topic. I'm just a chick on her couch with a film degree and a storytelling hyperfixation.
We're in the boredom-killing business.
But I want to get into the mind of Howard Beale, and I want to use the rage that I feel when my government uses media to try to convince me that going into business with an apartheid state is somehow good. And I want to use that rage to learn how not to end up like Howard and his audience.
There is no America. There is no democracy. There is only IBM and ITT and AT&T and DuPont, Dow, Union Carbide, and Exxon. Those are the nations of the world today.
Does your opinion even matter if you're not a stockholder? Questions to ask yourself. A key topic that Network explores is how corporate and ratings-driven media starts to obscure the line between entertainment and news.
The Arabs have decided to jack up the price of oil another 20%. The CIA has been caught opening Senator Humphrey's mail. There's a civil war in Angola, another one in Beirut. The New York City's still facing default. They finally caught up with Patricia Hearst. And the whole front page of the Daily News is Howard Beale.
We really have not changed at all.
You suggest we put that lunatic back on the air yelling bullshit?
Yes, I think we should put Beale back on the air tonight and keep him on. We've got press coverage on this you couldn't buy for $1 million.
Yes, that's exactly what we were talking about. Because money is more important than anything else. If the people in charge of communicating with the masses need to prioritize the interests of shareholders and advertisers over those in need, how will it affect their storytelling?
Please note an increase in projected initial programming revenues in the amount of $21 million due to the phenomenal success of The Howard Beale Show. I expect a positive cash flow for the entire complex of $45 million, achievable in this fiscal year, a year in short, ahead of schedule. This network may well be the most significant profit center of the communications complex. And based upon the projected rate of return on invested capital, and if merger is eventually accomplished, communications complex may well become the towering and most profitable center in the entire CCA empire.
While this scene is undoubtedly excellently executed, the topic at hand is no laughing matter and very important to engage with now more than ever. At the time that I'm working on this video, the David Ellison-led Paramount Skydance is acquiring Warner Bros. Discovery. This means that not only would major entertainment production companies belong under one umbrella, but numerous news channels would also be under the control of one family. Is it ethical for a small number of people to have this much control over mass media? And how does this change our collective narratives? One might consider it a bit of a stretch to connect a movie from 1976 to a corporate merger in 2026. But we must remember that Paddy Chayefsky himself, who wrote the network screenplay, is known for saying this after Vanessa Redgrave spoke out against fascism during her 1978 Academy Awards acceptance speech.
I would like to say, personal opinion of course, that I'm sick and tired of people exploiting the occasion of the Academy Awards for the propagation of their own personal political propaganda. To Miss Redgrave, that her winning an Academy Award is not a pivotal moment in history, does not require a proclamation, and a simple thank you would have sufficed.
So which is it? Should we eat the crumbs our corporate overlords give us and shut up? Or is there some validity to the emotions we feel while consuming media? How should we deal with our emotions other than screaming into the void? In Moral Outrage Networks, Peter Ilov writes, in the classical mass media environment analyzed by Herman and Chomsky, propaganda functioned by narrowing discourse, suppressing dissent, and manufacturing consent through repetition, omission, and fear. The central problem in this model was silence. People often recognized falsehoods, but lacked the social and institutional capacity to challenge them. In the networked attention economy, this logic has been inverted. Silence is no longer the desired outcome. So what's really going on when we collectively funnel our reactionary rage into something that is designed to keep us hooked? My dog is going to drink water now. So maybe use this moment to subscribe because I have to wait. Enjoy this clip of me reacting to something while my dog drinks water. Okay. I'm sorry. Why? What? I don't think I understand straight culture. But I hope you took this time to subscribe. Thank you for subscribing. Wikipedia describes the rage economy, or the outrage industrial complex, as a combination of forces including mass media outlets, social media influencers, political fundraising messaging, and individuals in media, political leadership, or advocacy that in the late 20th and early 21st centuries exploited differences of opinion and what was termed a culture of contempt, drawn along political and social lines, increasing distrust of institutions and society to advance their own desires for fame, wealth, higher office, and for geopolitical reasons. The outrage industrial complex creates and distributes outrage media, digital or print content, specifically intended to provoke anger or outrage among its consumers to increase engagement. Now that social media has made it more accessible for anyone to have a platform outside of legacy media, everyone who is online has to engage with the rage economy in some form or another. Platforms and online media increasingly profit from noise, conflict, and moral agitation. Citizens are not disciplined into silence, but invited to react, denounce, and ridicule. Outrage becomes a participatory obligation. Rage bait refers to content deliberately designed to provoke outrage in order to maximize engagement. Truth is no longer merely secondary emotion. Emotional provocation itself becomes the primary commodity. Anger is treated as a predictable behavior response that can be engineered, measured, and monetized. When you have a platform, you will inevitably have to consider impact versus profits. We see a glimpse of this understanding in Howard when he asks people to turn off their TVs and censor themselves.
And when the 12th largest company in the world controls the most awesome goddamn propaganda force in the whole godless world, who knows what shit will be peddled for truth on this network?
I'm gonna have an aneurysm watching this. So this is where I want to turn inward, because all this shit that I talked about, I don't have control over. But what I can take charge of is how I engage with these systems. The most radical thing that I can do in this moment is decide I'm mad as hell and I'm going to change how I engage with the world. When I was in school, a very long time ago, my biology teachers explained that the human brain is a pretty passive receiver of external signals. You see or hear something, your brain processes it, and you react. But we know now things are a little bit more complicated than that. Who could have guessed? The neuroscientific theory of predictive coding explains that our brains are active machines that consistently generate a mental model of the world in order to predict and categorize incoming sensory data. So, when we grow up in an environment where a certain narrative is asserted consistently, we are more prone to view new inputs through that lens.
The Arabs.
Who benefits from me having a very narrow view of the world? I myself am someone who was raised by people who spent a huge portion of their lives behind the Iron Curtain. As a result, growing up in the 90s, my family consumed news in 4 languages just in order to get a better idea of what was really going on. Does this mean that I'm not susceptible to biases? Absolutely not. But what I do see now as an adult is that this type of media consumption helped me to learn how perspective works in storytelling. But what happens when our media consumption habits condition us into black and white thinking instead of considering different points of views? What happens when our mental model of the world is shaped by a very small number of people? That's how some YouTube comment sections feel like, to be honest. Anger, of course, isn't always an unhealthy emotion. It becomes a problem when we don't pay careful attention to it and let it fester. Anger engages with the part of our brain which also deals with fight or flight. This area of the brain also controls adrenaline, heart rate, and other instincts which heighten the physical experience of feeling anger and rage. And most significantly, the brain releases dopamine when we feel rage, which means that we can get addicted to this experience. So again, I must ask myself, who benefits from how I engage with media that produces rage in me? Is there alternative behavior that I can adopt to change that which causes me so much rage? And can I do that even in times when it feels like the unpopular opinion?
This was the story of Howard Beale, the first known instance of a man who was killed because he had lousy ratings.
They had cameras on those guys and everything. Look at how many angles they got. That's not suspicious at all. I don't think the network has anything to do with this. When you watch Network, you'll learn that Howard wasn't just killed because of falling ratings. His studio head was completely happy to keep him on air, regardless of the ratings. Instead, Howard was murdered because he was broadcasting a call to action, which was in conflict with the status quo, and that in turn would lead to a loss in revenue for his executives.
Nobody wants to hear about dying democracy and dehumanization. In another couple of weeks of this and the sponsors will be bailing out.
And this certainly isn't something that happens in today's media landscape. Just ask these journalists, whose work was seen by millions, and yet somehow ignored by most of legacy media.
It is the international system of currency which determines the totality of life on this planet. And you have meddled with the primal forces of nature. And you will atone. Am I getting through to you, Mr. Beale?
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these things that simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Hey you, thanks for watching this whole video. If you like what I do, why not hit the subscribe button over here and let me know down in the comments which movie I should watch next. YouTube thinks you might like this video, and I also worked on this other thing, so I hope that you have fun watching your next movie. Bye!